Hello all, you're very, very welcome to the TNT Sports Rugby Hub, where we're bringing you the story of the Premiership. It's been a great season, and your storytellers today, Lawrence Dallaglio and Ugo Monye. So, it's the first season where we've had just 10 teams, and it was proof that sometimes size doesn't always matter.
My club, aside from my wife and child, the most important thing in my life.
I've spent 15 years there. It's a big chunk of my life.
I've mowed the pitch, I've lined the pitch, I've been a ball boy, I did the scoreboard.
Our lives revolve around the club.
Every weekend it's Quins in first.
It's like being 5 years old again. It always feels like Christmas Eve.
You all go through the same roller coaster week in, week out. And there is that emotional connection to a group of people all pulling in the same way.
It fills me full of pride seeing a perfect performance on this pitch.
When the shed is in full volume and singing, it really warms your heart.
You get quite emotional because it's like a family. Once a tiger, always a tiger.
Win, lose, or draw, we love them.
We're all one tight-knit community because we all love this one sport that gives us everything.
To give you like a big answer, it is literally my world.
So what we're going to do is kind of go through chunks of the season for you and tell the whole story as it all unfolds. But we'll start with the big headline, I guess. Exeter. A lot of old names no longer with us, a load of youth coming in, a changing of the guard there.
Yeah, it really was. You kind of went into this season slightly apprehensive or wondering what they would be like, because when you look at the list of talented players, got internationals right across the board here, whether it's a Cowan Dickey or a Sam Simmons, who've been exiting for them, Joe Simmons, Jack Knowles, Stuart Hogg, loads of big names, lots of players that's so synonymous with the Chiefs. But with that, I guess, an opportunity to have a look at the V2. What is V2 of Exeter going to be? And
they made an early statement on that front, Lawrence, didn't they?
They did. If you're going to stay at a club for a long time, either the coaches have to change or the players have to change. And Rob Baxter's rolled the dice. A lot of internationals going out. The one player that wasn't on that list, of course, was Henry Slade, who was dropped from that World Cup squad, but was, going to have a huge impact for Exeter in terms of being the glue that kind of binds together some of the more experienced players like himself, but also the younger generation like young Hodge, who goes over in the corner there.
Without giving too much away, big season for Henry Slade, as we will reveal over the course of the show.
Yeah, 100%. I felt, especially as you've already referenced, the fact that he got left out of that World Cup squad. And for Exeter, and anyone really to have an imprint in this league, so important to take advantage of the World Cup superstars being away. To him as that senior figure, trying to guide them and get this new generation to bed in the early stages, he was always going to play a big part.
On the subject of superstars, Lawrence, and senior figures, Saracens were going to lose a lot of them at the end of this season, weren't they? There was big changes coming there too.
There was, and they kind of always planned, I guess, for that change. So many international players coming to the end of their international careers. And I think, as much as it was a changing of the guard for Exeter, it also was for Saracens too. Big names. They maybe had to choose between some of the big names that they keep and some of the big names that they might let go. So some big decisions for Saracens to make.
How did they look early season, Ugo?
Poor. Really poor. I mean, to get pumped by that amount of points so early on, and the context being is that, they lost so many international players. You look at Elliot Daly, Owen Farrell, Maritoja there, and this is it. You lose 65-0 and then you're away fixture against Bath. But thankfully, the cavalry returned and order and familiarity returned to their score sheets as well.
Yeah, let's have a look at them in action here, Lawrence. And what were the good bits about Saracens when
Well, this was one of the opening games where they're able to bring back all of their internationals, and you look at this play alone, it involves Jamie George, Elliot Daly, Ben Earl, Jamie George again, and Maritoja. So every single player that Ugo referenced that was missing from those opening fixtures is back. and getting Saracens back to winning ways. So the challenge for Saracens would be, with a shorter league, number of fixtures, would they have enough time to reclaim the lost ground that they missed in the opening few fixtures?
The gas thing is the bookies, even at that stage of the season, had them as favourites to lift the trophy again, even though there was so much form brewing around them.
Yeah, Saracens, I mean, being the champions going into it, I don't remember the last time they've not gone into the season as favourites because of the strength and the depth and the quality. I think it was slightly slanted. You mentioned it, 10-team league, also with the World Cup coming in and understanding how the fixture's going to be choreographed. You had to get off to a good start. And then, I guess we'll talk about it later, but we were going to have a 7-8 weeks hiatus. How do you manage this season? It's the first time anyone's been able to do it, but Saracens are always a dangerous threat, even when they're missing some of their big guns.
Let's talk about the drama that Harlequins bring every season, every game. Same old Harlequins, Lawrence.
Yeah, listen, if you are a Harlequin season ticket holder, it's the roller coaster ride, isn't it? Can we score more tries than you? I think defensively they were going to be tested. We always know that they've got real quality throughout their playing group, and with the likes of Danny Kerr back at 9, Marcus Smith, Tyrone Green back from injury after a really long injury, and well, how about this for one of the Premiership moments of the season? Just spectacular, absolutely spectacular. And you always get entertainment with Harlequins. You're not always guaranteed the result, but you definitely get entertainment.
That statement was that they were always going to be true to themselves. They were going to be an attacking team, and they kind of stayed with that throughout the course of the season, didn't they?
It's interesting you use the word true. That is their mantra, true. And I think it's tempo, relentless, underestimating opposition at times, maybe, and enjoyment. But they are wonderful. I mean, that early loss against Gloucester, and we'll talk about Gloucester later on, but then they got this list of results together as well, and Lawrence has already mentioned it, is not just the results that they get, but the way in which they do it is amazing. It's not underestimating. It's been unpredictable.
And not only coincidentally is true their mantra, but it's also Lawrence's karaoke song, Spandau Ballet. It's good.
How does it go again?
How's it go, Law?
I don't know.
There we go. Shall we
unpredictable.
Shall we have a look at the table? This is how it looked after 5 rounds in the Gallagher Premiership. Just 10 teams, so every point counts, and those bonus points as well. Harlequins sitting top at that stage, 19 points, 3 bonus points in the bag already. Sale, Bath, Northampton making up the top 4. But already a tough-looking season ahead for Newcastle. They hadn't won a game in the opening rounds of the Premiership. Would it change? Well, we'll find out over the course of the show. So, over the course of the show as well, Ben and Austin are going to pick out a player from those particular rounds that stood out. So who have you got for us now, boys?
Yeah, it really was an amazing start to the season. But before we get started, just don't step to your right because your shirt's exactly the same colour.
I've had it designed like this. I asked for a blue.
Oh, did you?
Do you not get
Are you a sandwich board or more of a baguette board? Anyway, talking about good starts to the season, not a good start to this show, but what about Henry Slade? He was brilliant after pre-season, wasn't he?
Absolutely amazing because, his season could have gone one of two ways. Left out of the World Cup squad, a lot of his mates and senior players leaving from Exeter, and he could have felt a bit deflated, but he didn't take his ball home. He got on with things in pre-season and was a big reason, I think, why Exeter probably over surpassed where they should be on their journey with all their new players. He got himself back into the England squad as a result, but he's just looked such a calm head amongst inexperienced players all season.
Yeah, but also brought some of those players, Fissalau, Tuima, along. They really progressed throughout the season, but started off really well. I mean, he had everything around the field, didn't he? His ability to attack, ball in hand and kick as well.
Yeah, I think that was the impressive thing. It was the balance to his play. So we know what an aggressive defender he is, and England certainly used that later on in the season in the Six Nations. But that mixture of skill set and as a link player to bring other people in, the pressure of Exeter's defence has been a massive thing, and they have this hard press, which England have almost tried to emulate. They're a lovely bit of hands, having forced the error. Little pop-up to Faye Waboso. And here, just that balance, as you said, the kicking game to put Exeter in the right areas of the field. It's almost like having a second fly half on the field.
Yeah, he took a lot of pressure off Skinner, I think, and Skinner almost came of age a little bit this season. He's now more of a senior player in that squad. But Henry Slade scoring tries to win matches, not just scoring tries, but he had 2 kicks in 2 of the games in the first 5 rounds to win in the last seconds, and 1 in Europe against Toulon as well. So he had a fantastic start to the season, as did the Chiefs.
Thanks, boys. There'll be more from Laurel and Hardy over the course of the show as they look at more players. After the break, though, well, we are up and running in the Premiership. We are heading towards Christmas. Coming your way after this short break. Welcome back to the story of the Premiership here on TNT Sports with Ugo and Lauren. So we're up and running. We're 5 rounds in the bag and things started to get a little bit tasty, lads, because we saw the shape and personalities of some of these teams. And one of the big personalities arriving in our league was Finn Russell and Bath and how they changed, Lawrence.
It is, but also it's about the arrival of Johan van Graan as well, the coach. And he had a lot to do because Bath were on the end of results last season, but I think culturally he's changed them. Obviously, the headlines go to Finn Russell and Ben Spencer and that man in picture, Ollie Lawrence. But I think what Van Graan has brought to that squad as well is a sense that you won't win anything in the Premiership unless you have a tight 5. And his first signing, Thomas du Toit, was a huge one, really. So I think Bath became a much more difficult side at set piece. And then secondly, their defence, which had been porous the season before, suddenly looked up. And of course, the attacking game with the likes of Finn Russell, Cam Redpath, Thockenham Singer, so much quality out there. Just could they win enough ball and could Finn Russell pull the strings?
The likes of Cam Redpath, Orlando Bailey, these young guys who are kind of, let's be honest, when they broke onto the scene, were so young, like lambs to the slaughter at times. Finn Russell was looking like the missing piece of the jigsaw to really get them going, wasn't he?
Orlando Bailey deserves so much credit because towards the back end of last year, where Bath won 5 wins in a row with bonus points, it was Orlando Bailey at 10. But bringing in Finn Russell, Orlando Bailey now someone to look up to, but also you've got a sense of competition within the squad. And you've referenced it, Van Graan, what he's been able to do, and what Bath have always had are quality players. But I don't think they've always recruited well. And finally, Johan van Graan has been able to install players into the team that are finally going out and producing. Thomas du Toit, you mentioned, Ted Hill, another one. Alfie Barbary had his injuries, but when he played, excellent. Finn Russell's superstar naming, all of that coming together. And you could look through the checklist of what you need in rugby. Set piece, tick. Game management, Ben Spencer, best box kicker in the league. Stardust, magician, Finn Russell, and then finishers. They have it all together, but can they sustain it for long enough in the season to be in the top 4?
So many of the names that Ugo mentions there, Wasps, Worcester, London Irish, no longer with us, sadly. Do you think, from what we've seen at this stage of the season, that the league was looking a little bit more competitive because of the distribution of those players?
Yeah, I think, look, regardless of the way we may have painted the picture in previous years, there was a couple of dominant teams, particularly in Exeter and Saracens. And I think what you've now seen is with the division of labour, with the resources spread more evenly over 10 sides, it was becoming much more competitive. Any side could beat any other side on their day. Home fixtures were a premium. And picking up away wins, absolutely, crucial. So, yeah, definitely, I think there's been a concertina effect. And as the season unfolded, we started to see a much more competitive, what was it, 1 win separating the top 6 or 7 teams. So it's definitely had a huge impact.
Unfortunately for Gloucester fans, they weren't in the thick of that conversation, really. They were a bit up and down, Ugo, weren't they?
They were. I think they were probably the most affected by injuries earlier on. You look at someone like Val Rapava Ruskin. You look at their ruin Ackerman, Adam Hastings, he's back for this game finally, but they had a poor start to the season. But in the big game, Harlequins, premium event, it was the likes of Danny Kerr putting on a show, and unfortunately for Gloucester, another loss. Joe Marler absolutely loving it, and why wouldn't you? Because it is such a statement fixture within the Gallagher Premiership, one we get excited about and one that Harlequins took full advantage of.
Let's talk about Sale Sharks because... they've got so close to winning this title. Yeah. They've got a great squad up there, and they're kind of different to everyone else, Lawrence, aren't they? They do their own thing up there, don't they?
Well, Alex Sanderson refers to them as the Northern Tribe. And look, listen, they've made huge progress. They've not been short of investment in their owners. They've had stellar names, a lot of South African players coming in. And again, Alex is sort of finally, getting his kind of imprint on proceedings. They made the Premiership final last season, but got beaten by Saracens in the end. But they made a very good start to the Premiership campaign. They won. I think they're in the top 2 or 3 teams in the opening rounds. And for them, it was about having that consistency and how could they, how far could they keep it going and how far could they develop their game on what we saw at the back end of last season.
But the issue for them, bonus points. And they spotted it early because it's so crucial in this league. Bonus points make all the difference, right? They just weren't getting them. Why?
Yeah, well, you kind of look at the top teams in the Premiership at this point in the season, and they're the best try scorers. For Sale, they've always been physical, always had a great defence, and they've always been just a team that works really hard. Look at Alex Sanderson, look at the team. The two are synonymous with one another. But to be able to catch the very best within the league, they had to develop their attack. And when you look at a Manu Tuilagi, a George Ford, a Joe Carpenter, Tommy Roebuck, and they have it there. But you just felt as if they needed to pay a bit more attention there to be able to go and unlock it, because they get that, and then that's perhaps the final piece of their puzzle.
And Joe Carpenter made the England squad without giving too much away the rest of the season. That's great.
Did he? Did he? But we're just in December.
I know, but we can talk about we can talk about England things in the present, but like in the past, it's difficult.
It's an early Christmas. It's an early Christmas present.
Yeah. Well, it shows things must have gone quite well for them, which is really good.
In fairness to Sal, and you mentioned this Northern tribe, this year, allied to last year, it felt like a long time coming, actually. The recognition that Sale Sharks and their players have been getting is perhaps come overdue and very well warranted.
And the year we're going to say goodbye to Manu Tuilagi, who we'll miss so much, Lal. What a character.
We will miss him. And Sale will miss him, I think, and Alex Sanderson will miss him as well. But I'm sure we wish him well. And you never know. All these players that have gone over to France, we may see them back again.
That's it. I hope so. What a great character. Right, this is the state of the table after that big chunk of Gallagher Premiership action. And already things getting pretty tasty. You know, in an 18-round league season, round 10 is significant, isn't it? Northampton, 34 points, top of the table, and they would prove very, very difficult to dislodge. Exeter, Sale, Bath making up the top four. Saracens, Harlequins, Leicester and Bristol all still in the conversation. Essentially, Gloucester were too, but they couldn't lose many more points. Look at the points difference, minus 100. Major defensive issues for Gloucester at that stage of the season. As for Newcastle, 4 bonus points, but still looking for a victory. All eyes, though, on Bath, not just the team, but their new 10, Finn Russell. This guy was box office.
Russell, crossfield, open spaces, Muir! Russell with the long ball over the top, not going to sing it to score in the corner, and clinical execution. It's another one of those characteristic Finn Russell offloads, barely even looked where he needed to throw that. The Bath maestro, Finn Russell.
Yeah, we've just seen a little highlights clip of Finn Russell, but that could have been about 6 or 7 hours long. It was always a big question, wasn't it? What's he going to be like when he gets to Bath? How's he going to play? Is he going to be that superstar that Racing saw, that attacking everybody? But he gave Bath so much more than just his own personal ability, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think Johan van Graad needs to take a lot of credit as well, because his style of coaching throughout his career has been much more conservative. You look at the Blue Bulls and Springboks, Munster, they all play in a certain style of rugby that was never going to suit Finn Russell. But what you've had is these merging of the two styles to get the best of both worlds. And Finn Russell needs to take some credit as well, because he's obviously bought into what Bath are trying to do. And he's almost been that final piece in the jigsaw of bringing some hugely exciting backs that Bath have had for a number of years and always underperformed as a team. And they've always had a decent set of forwards, but they haven't been able to marry the two. And he's been the final piece in that jigsaw.
I think we should give him a lot of credit, actually, for recognising, actually, that it wasn't all about him. Actually, it was about bringing in the talents around him, because there's so much, and they've been stifled for a number of years, not really played their best rugby. But just seeing him in action was the opportunity to see how he could bring Thakana Singh, how he could bring Lawrence, how he could bring Redpath into the game.
Yeah, I actually don't think it's the particularly showy things. I mean, these are great offloads. We saw his control at the beginning, but it's the little tiny flick-on passes that just buys extra time for other people. I think when you play against a 10 like Finn Russell, one of the real strengths is you don't know how hard you can bite on them, because you want to take away all their time so they can't throw these really good passes and play wide. But equally, you're always worried about overcommitting on him and him using your own pace against you, your own line speed against you. So he's a really difficult player to play with. But other players have massively benefited from having him alongside. And, you know, we look at Ollie Lawrence as a guy, you look at that partnership between the two, and you need to hang off Finn Russell a little bit because of his ability and late decision making. But if you hang off Ollie Lawrence, he's the sort of player that can get over the gain line.
Yeah, player of the season last year. This year, he just kept going, didn't he? Those lines he was picking back in from the back of the line out, creating tries on the outside, always a real threat and a danger. And if you're defending against him, you're going to be a little bit worried going into the games, aren't you?
Yeah, and as a defensive line, you know, the outside defender's probably thinking, well, is the guy inside me going to be able to handle Ollie Lawrence's power on his own? You know, he's got great footwork, huge acceleration, and his ability to survive a tackle and keep going. So what does that do? Narrow up the defensive line, because the outside guy's not willing to go quite quickly enough. And again, that plays back into Finn Russell's expansive, not only passing game, but the kicking game that we saw in some of the clips before. But I just think this guy is so exciting. I don't think we've seen the best of him yet in an England shirt, but I think England should be basing their attack around him, as Bath have done this year, in a really, really successful form.
And it wasn't just about their attacking game, actually. You mentioned Finn Russell. Can you remember the tackle? Was it on Woki? He really put his body on the line, which I think gets the buy-in from the rest of your teammates. You can turn up as the superstar, which I did every week, but, you know, you have to buy in.
But you never tackled.
Exactly. Well, I didn't have to, just scored. But I was amazed at how committed he was to the cause.
Yeah, look, he is. I think unfairly, you know, people often see a style of player and presume they're not going to be a great tackler, but he's never sort of been one to shirk the physical confrontation. It's a vital part of that position's armoury, because if you're known as a weak link, teams go hunting for you and it affects the rest of the game plan. So, yeah, he's probably been one of the signings of the season, though maybe not the bargain of the season.
No, it certainly has, but fortunately for Bath, Bruce Craig can afford it.
Yeah, but money well spent, Bruce. Money well spent. Well, if you thought the first half of the season was exciting, things are about to get even better. We'll tell you more after this short break. Welcome back to our story of the season in the Gallagher Premiership. Oh, it was a goodie, and slowly we could see that the hero of this story was becoming Northampton Saints. So much fun to watch. They really have been brilliant, haven't they?
I think for years they've perhaps been the best equipped, skilled side in the Gallagher Premiership. The best catch pass, they've got a wonderful surface. Friday night Franklin's Gardens is tremendous, and now they've been able to put together a collection of players that play a wonderful brand of rugby. This try here embodies everything which is good about Saints. Accuracy, precision, timing of passing, and some brilliant finishes in Tommy Freeman, who's having a breakthrough season. I just think they are so precise. And I made the comment to the back end of last year, I felt as if they were a middleweight boxer trying to fight at heavy. This year, they were very much a heavyweight boxer, mixing it with the very best in the business, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the heavyweight side came from their defence, which they improved vastly. Very difficult, Lawrence, isn't it, to improve your defence and then keep your attack there? Because usually when you go up on something, something drops. But actually the balance has been total, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think similar to Bath, I think they prioritised their set piece, because whenever Northampton Saints came up against the big boys, namely the likes of Saracens and Exeter, I think they were found wanting up front in the set piece. So they improved that area. And then by bringing in Lee Radford, I think they recognised that you can't win anything if you concede that many points. And so they addressed it. I think they've slightly tweaked the way that they've played. Ugo talks about the quality that they have in their back line. Yes, they do. And obviously with Finn Smith at 10, pulling the strings, Alex Mitchell, but they're actually kicking a lot more now as well in the Premiership, which you need to do it at certain times. When it's on, but when it's not, kick it down there, and you've got a pack now with Courtney Laws at the fore that can really, really compete with the very best.
True story. When Lee Radford, the defence coach, joined the club, the first thing he did was show the team CCTV footage of him fighting off 2 burglars in his underpants.
I got a feeling they picked the wrong house that day.
There you go, yeah. There you go. Which is the only way I fight burglars now because of it.
Is it weird? My only question is he a boxers or briefs lad?
Oh, I think they were tight tighty whities.
Okay,
Yeah. I know. Sure, they're the most aggressive looking of the underwear.
Depends what they leave you, really, I suppose.
Either do that or just have Courtney Laws beside you, because the man is a machine. Brilliant again this season, wasn't he?
He's an enforcer, and you know, in the knowledge that this is going to be the last season that a true Northampton great is going to be around, he certainly wanted to empty the tank. That's the only way he knows. Been fortunate enough to play with Courtney. His leadership style is follow me through his actions, and every single week the impact which he is having is tremendous. He makes it very easy for him to follow. But then behind that, you've got a clutch of young English players. And I think of the international careers that have been resuscitated this year. Finn Smith, he was playing for Worcester Warriors 18 months previous. Bang, he's on the market. Fraser Dingwall, he'll have another go. George Furbank, who got capped twice under Eddie Jones, he's back in the mix. All of these players, Tommy Freeman got capped 2 years ago, back into it. They are collectively all progressing and growing at the same rate.
And some caps available at 10 for England, because Owen Farrell confirmed at this stage of the season that he was up to Racing 92, and we wished him the best of luck. He's been a great servant to this league, great bloke, Lawrence, but a sad loss to the league.
A huge moment in Owen Farrell's career, in the journey of Saracens Rugby Club, but also for English rugby and the Premiership. You know, an incredible servant, one of the Premiership's all-time greats. You know, multiple titles, both at domestic and European level. But something wasn't quite right at Saracens. You know, they didn't have the strength in depth. They had to make some commitments. Do they keep Maritoji? Do they keep Jamie George? Something had to give, and Owen Farrell ended up being that person that made that decision. Didn't really help Saracens when he announced it, because the first thing they did was pull him away from the game against Northampton Saints, made Maritoji captain, and it's a game they lost.
Yeah.
So, you know, but we obviously wish, you know, Owen Farrell well, and I think what it did do is it gave Saracens at that point in the season a focal point for the remainder of the season. Would they be keeping the Vunipola brothers? They certainly wouldn't be keeping Owen Farrell. Who was coming, who was going, etc. So it made them kind of really focus on the Premiership for the rest of the season.
The focus for Bristol was to find some consistency. Up and down again.
Up and down, a little bit like their philosophy to play. The first half of the season, all they wanted to do was kick the ball, and then they were like, hang on, I don't think there's many that can deal when we play at this pace, because they've got some weapons. Now Largo, yeah, that's one, that's two. This is not underage rugby, this is the Gallagher Premiership. Randall throws in a filthy right foot step, and now Largo, who started it, finishes it. This is when they got back to being themselves and being the personality that Pat Lamb took to Connaught, brought to Bristol Bears, and they looked a lot more familiar.
Lawrence, Newcastle Falcons. It was turning into a really difficult season for them. We'll show later if it improved. They have constraints. Constraints.
There's a number of factors, really. Geographically, you know, take nothing away from the north, but it's a long way away. Every other side only has to go there once. They have to travel to every other side. So I think geographically, every away game is a real challenge for them, and that's something that they've got to overcome. And we know about the salary cap in the Premiership, but sides can either go right up to the top, and then if you have a generous, you know, and wealthy benefactor or a wealthy club, then you might choose to sign, say, Finn Russell. But Newcastle are nowhere near the salary cap. I think they're operating in a budget probably below £4 million, and there's only so much you can do with a group of players. And as we've recognised, the league has got more and more you know, concentrated in terms of the playing pool, and therefore it's very, very hard for a team like Newcastle to win a game.
Yeah, it really was proving to be hard. This is the bare facts of it when you look at the table. They hadn't had a win at this stage. They put in some big, gutsy performances, but just struggling to keep up pace with some of the other big sides. 5 points. It wasn't looking great for them. Probably one of the few that are grateful that there's no relegation, because they were heading in that direction, that's for sure. As you can see, though, after round 15, things were still so tight. Northampton on 54. Leicester still in the conversation on 39 points. Anything could happen, but still, Saints, the star team of the season at that stage, and their little number 10 was the star player.
Finn Smith. He looks a fabulous player and very much for the long-term future. And here it is! Big start needed, big start provided. Smith, and then Ram! Northampton rediscovering what they were all about. Smith, and he pops it up to Freeman. Finn Smith
Yes, please. Can I have a poster, please?
Ben! Hi.
What are you doing back there?
Oh, it's a bit of a gag. I don't know if it's going to work, but we'll talk about Finn Smith in a minute. But one side had to come from the back of the pack and beat everyone, and in style, actually. So I'll come forward with a little bit of panache. But Bristol had to win all 6 games to make the semis, didn't they?
They did, and relied on some going back to their old style of play. You know, they had tempered things down and maybe felt that the all-expansive game wasn't going to work in the Premiership for them. But having discovered that they were best at a certain style of play, they went back to that. And one player, Ben Hard, Jancy van Rensburg, was absolutely...
Do you know why I think he was so good? Well, because they were so side to side at the start of the season, they got a little bit direction through the middle from him, which sucked in the defences and enabled them to attack a lot better. He carried so well, didn't he?
Unbelievable carrier. He picks a line so well, but he has the power to match as well. So he actually made more metres after contact than every other player apart from Jasper Wiese, and we know what sort of style of play Jasper Wiese brought to the Premiership this year. But added to that, he also made the third highest number of offloads as well. So when you got the likes of Fakatawa outside you, but making that initial bust, he never really dies with the ball. He either breaks the contact himself or he gets the offload away. And for me, one of the top players of the season.
Ibatoya as well, I thought was fantastic for Bristol in that period. Look, we mentioned Finn Smith. Let's talk about him, a real star in the finding.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a really interesting battle as Ford and Farrell sort of get towards the twilight years of their career, where England go, because Finn Smith just seems to have such an old head on young shoulders. Balance to his game, we saw the drop goal there. His kicking game's really, really good, both from an attacking perspective and from kicking for distance. So in that Northampton backline, Sam Vesti's obviously been a huge part of creating an attack, which again has halted defences wanting to rush up, which has bought him more time, and he has got the killer pass available to him. So I think this guy's going to be a very special player for England. And as we were talking about with Finn Russell, really brave defender as well. Some of his tackles this year, been hugely impressed with.
What I noticed the most about him after the Six Nations was a slight change in his game. He'd squared his shoulders up a little bit more. He'd take the ball to the corner and just bring defenders onto him, very much like he'd spent a little bit of time with George Ford.
Well, George Ford's a really interesting one because he obviously had a massive role in England's World Cup campaign, and he came back and Sale's attack was a little bit stagnant at first. You know, we saw Sale certainly come to the fore at the back end of the season. I think it all came down to how flat George Ford started standing. We saw on the first clip there, able to still get the kick away despite standing right in the face of the opposition, and it just held defensives to create width for Sale on the outside. When they first started with George Ford, I felt he was playing a little bit too far back and teams were able to drift off on them. But as soon as he gets into this position, right flat, he almost takes away the opposition line speed because they don't know what he's going to do. One of the best at creating holes and putting other people through, but also equally adept as a decision-making to find the space for himself and go.
Yeah, he really was central with everything that was good. I think Rob Dupree as well, the link that they found, he would occasionally go to first receiver, he'd drop into the backfield. They really encouraged Sale to play a little bit more rugby away from that power, and that was going to be vital as they moved into the last 3 games of the season.
So it's all been pretty tasty so far. 3 rounds left in the Premiership after the break. The run-in. Welcome back to our story of the Premiership, which is turning into a proper old page-turner. But the drama still awaited us in rounds 16, 17 and 18. A serious run in, Lawrence. Round 16, it got real tasty, like a moving round, wasn't it? Let's talk about Saracens first of all. Where were they positioned?
Well, listen, Saracens still had, plenty of room to make up. And this was a fixture that was a bit of a revenge mission for them because they lost at home to Bath, I think in one of the opening 2 rounds of the campaign with all the players missing. And they hung on in there. They made it a bit of a kicking duel. And Owen Farrell was just majestic, coming up with the little assist there and then the winning kick.
And there was so much talk of emotion at that stage because it was really the start of the long goodbye for Owen Farrell, wasn't it?
It was only 3 matches to go, and you could see it from how he was at the end of matches, taking in the applause, saying hello to all the fans. He just spent a little bit more time, but also just laser focused on wanting to get the end in which he probably deserved. Such a legend of the game, and we knew that Saracens and the Wolfpack would lean into the emotion of some of their legends.
So Saracens in the mix, their London rivals Harlequins still in the mix. They had their big summer kick-off, and Saints in town for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those games, actually, where Harlequins were fantastic. They scored 6 tries that game. Northampton didn't need to win just because they had a buffer at the top of the table. But as you've mentioned, in round 16, the teams that were desperate to win, that were desperate to stay in the fight, end up using that emotion to stay there. And it was a big occasion and a big result for the Quins.
It's working, that big kick-off, isn't it, by the way? I
love it.
It was really
2
good,
a year.
Yeah, it was really good. Did you enjoy that, Lal?
Yeah, really good.
I
think there's an opportunity now for every single Premiership club to find a big game at some point. We see it with Saracens, seen it with Quins. Yes, it doesn't always have to be in London, but if we could do one of those a season from every Premiership club, I think we'd be well made.
Sale and Old Trafford, that would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
Newcastle, St James's Park, why not?
Having played in Old Trafford,
takes a bit of time to sell out. Quins have been at it for a number of years now, but if we collaborate, it's amazing what can happen.
Yeah, sorry, who did I play with? Oh, Maradona, yeah. I don't want to talk about it, though, soccer. It's a long time ago. It's not worth talking about anymore. Bristol.
Yeah.
Oh,
Bristol's journey.
Well, Bristol just finally entered the group chat, didn't they? After being archived for about 15 rounds, just decided to show up. This is a game they were losing by 10 points with about 10 minutes to go. Out of nowhere, Magnus Bradbury scores this try, pops his shoulder. That wasn't good news. Then AJ McGinty pops that over. That ended Leicester's run in the Gallagher Premiership and absolutely put everyone on notice for the Bristol Bears.
So this is how it looked with 2 rounds remaining in the Gallagher Premiership, and still, teams were dropping off, but still a load of them in the fight. Northampton looking fairly safe at this stage, but look at that, the points difference between, second all the way down to Exeter and 7th. Leicester kind of, more or less out of it, kind of mathematically in the races, but it was really from Exeter all the way up. Fascinating stuff. So it brought us to round 17. Big game. Exeter against Quins. Massive.
Yeah, it was. And what we're going to see over round 17 and 18 was the final opportunity for home fans to say goodbye to the stars that are leaving. And Sandy Park is one of the most atmospheric stadiums in the Gallagher Premiership. And we knew they were going to put on a show. Exeter had to get 5 points to stay in the hunt. This man, Fairwood Bosa, what a season he is having. And they absolutely thumped Harlequins in what turned out to be one of their games of the season.
Yeah, that was a sensational day down there. It was a real statement piece as well from the young players' perspective down there, wasn't it? We kind of stopped talking about the old guys at this stage, haven't we?
Yeah, I think we talked about it at the beginning of the show, didn't we, about the changing of the guard. And, you always wonder as a coach how quickly those players are going to develop. Well, I think quite a few of them, have really come through very, very strongly indeed.
These were like a series of quarterfinals in round 17, weren't they? So let's go to the Saracens-Bristol quarterfinal. How did that play?
Yeah, well, listen, Saracens sort of flexed their muscles, really, going away from home. Bristol, let's not forget, were in red-hot form. They were almost the form team in the Premiership, picking up bonus point wins. And to go to Ashton Gate, packed house there, I think Saracens showed what it means to them to be the champions of the Premiership. Look at this for a try. Cincy to his fellow international teammate, and they really did flex their muscles and came away with a vital win.
Gonzalez is one of the players I think I'm most excited about
incredible.
next season. How good is this guy?
Well, it's just his pace, isn't he? I think he's incredible, and with a number of their leading stars moving on, he is young, he's explosive, he's dynamic. He's got hands like a back, and he's certainly going to be a Premiership star for the future.
Some of his trail running is a joke for a man of that size, Hugo.
He looks like a massive centre playing in the back row. His all-round skill set is remarkable. He's, for me, has been one of the most outstanding players of this season.
Bristol's learnings this season, what are they?
To evolve whilst retaining who you are. Because I think when they look at that as one game that may have cost them, I think they'll look at the opening 10 rounds and went, I think we try to be something that we're not, and kicking the ball is not who we are. And every game needs that, of course, but they lost themselves a little bit, and that might be the margin which ultimately costs them come the end of the season.
The fact is, in the Premiership, it's all about attacking rugby now, isn't it? It's completely shifted. Let's have a look at the table, and you can see the number of try-bonus points scored and the points difference is proof of that. But Northampton on 60 points had a big Q to the name at the end of round 17. That means they had qualified for a home semi-final at the Gardens with 1 round to go. Fair play to them. Saracens, always there, always in the mix. They still didn't have a home semi, though, in North London. Small Q there. But look at that. Bath, Sale, Exeter and Harlequins and Bristol still in the fight for that semi-final place. So, I brought us to round 18.
Yes.
And it was a fascinating round 18, wasn't it? Because still so much to be decided. Can you remember a season where it was like that before, Lawrence?
No.
Or Hugo? Both of you. You just chat yourselves
Listen,
silly.
I mean, obviously Northampton being outstanding, Saracens normally having their business done by then. They'd normally booked themselves a home semi-final, but they had qualified, but they still hadn't qualified to play at the Stonex. So, no, I think we talked about it. I don't think all the way through, like you said, from round 15 onwards, it felt like knockout rugby. We'd lose one team, then we'd lose another team, and going into the last round we still didn't even know who was going to be in the semi-finals. So, what you wanted was a home tie if you had to win it, but did you? Because Saracens ended up playing Sale at home, and we had quite a shock result in the end, didn't we? Sale having never been to the Stonex and come away with a win. And, Hugo talked about bonus points. Sale managed to pick up a number of them going into this fixture and gave themselves a shot at the playoffs. And some uncharacteristic mistakes there. And Sale came away with a famous victory.
What was incredible about that run for Sale, when you think about their dodgy period where they were losing games and they just weren't looking great, and that run to put themselves in that position was extraordinary, wasn't it?
They're almost forced to go into that position because I don't think winning matches was enough at that point because they had dropped so far off. And the personality of the Premiership was led and dictated by scoring tries, that they were forced into playing more attacking rugby. And that game there at the Stonex was incredible because I had an eye on the Mattioli Woods Welford Road. Leicester Tigers played Exeter. Had an eye on the Stoke because Bristol played against Harlequins. But the Kingmakers was Sale, because if Sale did the business, everything else was kind of irrelevant. And they went into that game knowing that they've got to do something that's not been done before, but also, if they win, it doesn't matter what else is going on. So they were the proper kingmakers come round 18 of the Gallagher Prem.
A lot of emotion there as well because they had a lot of players leaving as well. Alex Anderson was like almost sobbing every interview he did in the build-up to that game. So this is how it all finished up. After round 18, this is essentially the semi-final table because the top 4 make their way to the semi-finals. Northampton would be at home and they would face Saracens. Bath would be at the Rec. What a day for all those fans who've stuck with their Bath team for so long. And they would have Sale in town. Newcastle finishing the season with no wins. A really tough one for them. They'll come back better. They'll be stronger. Steve Diamond has a plan in place. We'll see what happens when we go again in September. Right. Let's look at team of the season, shall we? We didn't select this one. We weren't allowed near it. Right. Hey? Some real brains trust selected this one, lads, and this is what they came up with over the course of 18 rounds of the Premiership. And I think this is interesting, Lawrence, particularly when you look at the front 5, the front row, definitely. Would you have thought that would be your front row at the start of this season?
Absolutely no way. I mean, what we must say and caveat on this team of the season is that obviously the opening 5 rounds or so were without your international players. So there would be maybe in another season a slightly more familiar look about it, more international rugby players who were obviously away during the World Cup. But Baxter, quite honestly, what a standout season he's had for Harlequins, almost replacing Joe Marler in the big games. And he goes down at number 1. Curtis Langdon, what a signing he has been for the Saints. Probably, arguably, the form hooker in the Premiership all season. And we've spoken about this guy, Detroit. We know about Finn Russell, we know about Ben Spencer, but without doubt, the tight head from South Africa was the signing of the season for Bath.
Ben Spencer, we talk about Finn Russell so much, but he has been superb. And maybe Finn Russell being there has eased some of the pressure off Ben. He's been able to play his own game a bit more, hasn't he?
I think they complement each other really well because Ben and his kicking game, he's such a brilliant director of traffic on the pitch. And actually, I think the number one improvement he's made is in his leadership. He's now the Bath captain. So it's not just the experience of winning titles with Saracens, but then taking that to lead at Bath there. But the other interesting thing about that team for me is there's only one starting England international on that side, which is Henry Slade. And we've had more internationals available to play in the Prem this season than in the last decade. So it's great to see the level of competition, players reinforce themselves, but almost a conveyor belt of youth coming through and introducing themselves onto the big stage.
The man chosen to lead this team, Phil Dowson of Northampton Saints. We've seen him come through as a player, now as a man in charge. He's been great, hasn't he, Lyle?
Yeah, listen, Ugo's touched on it already. Northampton have always had an attacking mindset. I think it was started with Chris Boyd from New Zealand, who Phil Dowson worked under. I think Sam Vesti, in his assistant and attack coach, is one of the best coaches in the Premiership and is destined for bigger and better things. And they've really promoted the right culture within that group. There is a humility about Saints. You're not always liked when you're the team at the top, but you can't not dislike the Saints. I mean, there is a humility, there's a humbleness. I think there's a team-first work ethic epitomised by Courtney Laws. And they're a side that there's a lot to be, very thankful for. And I think Phil Dowson should take an enormous amount of credit, along with Lee Radford, along with Sam Vesti and everyone at the club.
Yeah, and a lovely fella as well. Fair play to him. Right, there you go. A seriously good team of the season. Full of the stars of the Gallagher Premiership, no doubt about that. Who do the boys think the real stars are? Have a look at this.
Must have been, I think, the hardest season ever to pick the player of the season. But honourable mentions?
I think, as you said, so many. Courtney Laws in his last season for Northampton, we all thought post-international retirement, would he tail off? He just went to another level. Thomas Dutoy for Bath, he was outstanding, not only in his ball carrying. At one point he was the top try scorer, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But the fact that he could play on both sides for them, even in the final, ended up, lasted the full 80 minutes. And I think two props came on to replace on the other side, and he's just switched over. So
I'd have picked one of the Finns. I think they would have been in the running. Baxter, Smith, Russell.
Yeah.
Nearly
any
forgot
more
the
Finns?
last one. I don't know if there's any more Finns. Do you know any more Finns? Huckleberry? That's the other way around. Hound. Yeah, OK. So Henry Slade was the eventual winner, and congratulations to him. But why? Because of so much he brought, I think, to the Chiefs, his ability to be the link pin. But I think, moreover, to stabilise this season for them, he was the development chief, if you like. His ability to really move the play around. He was central to running through the middle of the field, bringing other players into the game. Defensively, very strong, but we know what he's like with ball in hand. He's just got an ability to read the play. Lovely little passes, lines that he's picking off, and then the ability to finish. Fast guy. Obviously worked exceptionally hard because he missed out on the World Cup. And his kicking game, stepping into first receiver, was sensational. So this guy, along with his goal kicking, took Exeter not quite as far as maybe they thought halfway through the season, but in terms of before the season, they probably ended up a lot further along the development road.
Maybe that World Cup disappointment took a bit of pressure off him, the fact that he just thought, right, I'm going to go back to playing how I always did, and we saw the benefit.
People wondered what would happen when we went to 10 teams. And I think the greatest thing we've seen from this season is the ability to develop young talent and make them, international standard very, very quickly. Feo Abosa is a brilliant example of that, isn't he?
Yeah, and you said, having that experience of Henry Slade, but then how they've developed all these young players. And Exeter have had a load, and it took a bit of bottle. I know a lot of players chose to leave, but they had such resources hiding in the wings, Exeter Chiefs. And this guy, what I've loved about him is how much they've used him. Often, talented wings might get 3 or 4 opportunities in the game because they stand out on the wing. Rob Baxter has made him just move all over the field, chase the ball, and he has so many involvements in the game. He's so powerful, really good footwork, Very, very difficult if he is in midfield for the forwards to deal with because he's lower, particularly with the tackle height rules at the moment. You get stuck on your heels and then he'll just do you with his footwork and his power. He has been one of the finds of, I reckon, the last 5 or 10 years, and I think he's going to be a huge, huge star.
Breakthrough player of the season. What I really like about him is he's not really a professor of the game yet. He doesn't really understand the game. Particularly, it's hard to play on the wing and you often get caught out of position, but his physicality, like you said, his low centre of gravity, his impacts close to the breakdown. I saw him the last sort of 4 games of the season and he was even better than we saw him in the Six Nations. So the world's his oyster next year, as is for Finn Baxter, who had an unbelievable year.
This guy's 22 and he's playing like one of the best props in the world. And I don't say that lightly because the worry for a 22-year-old is can they do the main role of a prop, which is scrummaging. This stuff, I mean, you get some backs that can't deliver that ball as perfectly. He's a good tackler. He'll carry himself, but so he's got a little bit of everything. You don't know what he's going to do, but his most important job of scrummaging, he went head-to-head with Ben Tamofuna for Bordeaux and destroyed him. And he's 22 years old against a guy that's 150, 160 kilos.
Yeah, Bordeaux, Toulouse, great future, provided he can stay fit. And one player who had an injury during the Six Nations, before that was fantastic, and then after it, particularly in the European games for Harlequins, was truly sensational. This guy could be the answer to England's back row woes for the last decade.
Yeah, Chandler Cunningham South. The one word to describe him is raw. Another one might be abrasive because he is such a destructive carrier. You think you've got him and he'll just fight for those extra couple of metres, which knocks that defensive line back, gives a little bit of extra time for the likes of Marcus Smith and Danny Kerr here. I think you have to use him wisely. I don't think he likes to be put under pressure with his hands. He wants the ball in his hands early so he can pick his spot and go after people defensively. He's been outstanding. He almost reminds me of some of the great New Zealand number 6s over the years. Really, really abrasive, will get you over the line, and as you said, exactly what England have needed.
Him with Marcus Smith as well, and the young Danny Kerr. What a brilliant combination those three can be for years to come. Next year, with these young talents, is going to be exceptional.
So 18 rounds of Gallagher Premiership Rugby had served up 2 semi-finals to absolutely relish. Even if you saw them live, it doesn't matter. Stay with us because the highlights are worth another watch. They're coming your way after this short break. Welcome back to our story of the Premiership. It is semi-final time. What a treat coming your way. Friday night at the Gardens, Saturday afternoon at the Rec.
Have you ever been to the Gardens and heard it this noisy?
The fans here are unbelievable. You can ask for a better set of fans.
And Twickenham away. It's a clash of Premiership titans. Northampton against Saracens. Furbank gets it away to Orlando. Saints with the first try.
This is honestly what I've dreamed of doing since I was a little boy, like playing in these games where we've got an opportunity to go to Twickenham and play for a trophy.
A big blow landed by Finn Smith. Farrell breaks free. What a grubber that is! That is class! Absolute class! Sinti! Oh, it's magnificent from Saracens!
What a finish we're given now. Until it's done, there's always doubt.
The maul has been called! The final act of Courtney Laws at the Gardens to win back possession, to win the match.
I remember watching Courtney and the likes of Alex Waller win trophies at this club. The fact that I've got one more chance to do it with that group that I grew up watching just makes it that much more special.
Saints will march on the headquarters of English rugby again.
As been a while since it felt better to be involved with Bath.
No one in the squad's actually started in a home semi, so it's a massive day for the club.
And here we are with the second of the Gallagher Premiership semi-finals. It is Bath and it is Sale. Spencer over the top, Hill! They're in a decent position here. Sale there and Sale score. Abano, there! 2 for Bath. Tommy Taylor, no stopping them.
I've got massive fear of being this player at Bath Rugby who's been here for 15, 16 years and never won anything.
Carpenter kicks ahead. Look at O'Flaherty. O'Flaherty favourite. Gets it. And Sale are ahead.
I don't think you deserve anything in sport. I think sport is so emotional and the margins are so small that somewhere between hard work, grace and luck lies the answer.
Sale desperate. Twickenham calling. Twickenham calling. They haven't been English champions since 1996.
For a club like Bath, it'd be so special to win the Premiership and to bring it home, and I think it's just what the club and what their city deserves.
They are heading back to another tilt at the Premiership.
Franklin's Gardens Friday night was just so good for that semi-final. The place was absolutely hopping, Lawrence. They always support their team, but my word, there was soul in that place then.
I think Northampton Saints have been knocking at the door, haven't they, for the last few seasons in the Premiership. You know, they've made the playoffs, but they've always maybe lacked a few missing ingredients. I think this season, the first time where the crowd was really behind them, had that belief. You know, this is the third time that they played Saracens this season in a big game, having beaten them down at the StoneX, having beaten them quite comprehensively already at Franklin's Gardens. I think for me, it wasn't just the team, but also the home support that really had the belief that this could be their season. Something really special was happening at Franklin's Gardens, with all the narrative of the players leaving, with all these young players coming through, with all the work that Chris Boyd has done. Everything came down to beating Saracens in a home semi-final on a Friday evening. And we've had some special games there, and this was no different.
And the manner of it, Lawrence, as well, like we talk about the fancy stuff, but they won 6 scrum penalties against Saracens. Yeah. This is a Saints team with a bit of beef.
It is. I think we talked previously about their improvement in defence. We talked about their improvement in the scrum. You know, if you want to beat Saracens, you've got to go for the 80 minutes and you've got to have a set piece that can last that long. And it was them late in the game that were winning those penalties. So they certainly did it the hard way. They thoroughly deserved it. And as I said, I think it was just that belief that they were better than Saracens. And if the truth be known, had they put their attacking game together, it ended up being very, very close. But I think this is a game they probably could have won by at least 2 scores.
We're talking about Finn Smith a lot, but the man inside him, Alex Mitchell, who's just been phenomenal, isn't he?
Yeah, Alex Mitchell, another exceptional game. He was player of the match. And his ability to be able to manipulate defenders in and around the breakdown is remarkable. Speaking to Danny Kerr, guy who knows a fair amount about scrum half play, he says there isn't anyone better manipulating defenders with their hands than him. This was almost an incredible moment. Albert Gonzalez getting back for a try-saving tackle, but his threat had been constant throughout the Gallagher Premiership, and it was exactly the same in the semi-finals. You want big players to step up in big matches. That's become cliched, but it's only a cliche because it's often proven to be true, and even that's a cliche in itself. Regardless of cliches, he was magnificent, Craig.
I can't remember how many cliches are we on. We've cliched our cliches. The other cliche is that Bath supporters will always support their team. I will, look, hands up here, right? I am a part-time resident of Bath. I have felt their pain, but their support. I need a team now because I've no London Irish, so I'm edging that way. Okay. I love it down there. It's a fantastic place to watch rugby. But on a Saturday afternoon in the semi-final, you were there. How brilliant was it?
Best atmosphere I've ever witnessed, felt at the Rec. It felt like a proper festival of rugby, everything outside the stadium, within it. And for a long time, they've been starved of success. It'd been 9 years since they had a home semi-final, and then to be able to have it and feel like that this was their moment. I thought that was the biggest thing. It wasn't people just turning up with their large wallets expecting a really nice day out. There was a sense of belief that they could be in a Premiership final. My word, they turned up and played some brilliant rugby.
What a stage for Finn Russell, Lowe.
Yeah, it was. Look, I mean, I always felt that Northampton had the beating of Saracens on the Friday night. The one I was more concerned with was this fixture here, because Sale were on a bit of a roll. But I think they got the job done. I mean, Finn Russell came up with the big moments in the game. You know, always looking for the offload, always looking for the try assist, and is on hand to score the points. And it was the other side of his game that really worked well. And as Ugo said, I just think the atmosphere at the Red, I played them many, many times. I've never heard noise like it. And they have a team and a club that they can be proud of now.
And we had a final we could be hugely, hugely proud of. Northampton Saints against Bath. It was billed as a final for the ages. This is what happened.
So, you've made it to the final. 80 minutes between you and becoming a champion. But what does it mean to be a champion?
Becoming a champion is almost like a dream beyond a dream.
For me to be champion, it means that I'm the best in the world.
Is every emotion possible?
It's the best feeling ever.
It's pretty indescribable.
I dreamed about it all my life.
To be a champion is everything. Nothing else matters.
It's relief.
The main feeling I feel is relief.
Relief?
Relief, I think, more than anything.
It's sacrifice.
Sacrifice my childhood.
Being away from your loved ones.
I've sacrificed everything.
Is it worth it? Is it worth the sacrifice?
That everything that I've done for all them years has paid off and worked.
Confirmation that you can do it.
It's all worthwhile when you become champion at the end of it.
If I hadn't made those sacrifices, I wouldn't be the athlete that I am today.
In the end, that's what truly matters. Becoming Premiership champions.
A game to stir the blood of every single rugby fan.
There can be only one winner.
Oh, that's so good! And that's the game! This is crazy! Twickenham calling! Twickenham calling!
Seize the opportunity and write your names in history.
Fastest ever set out of a Premiership final to see the Kings of England crowned today, the culmination of an 8-month campaign.
Finn, first D-set, let's go. First D-set, let's go.
Muir has it, threads it forwards, away goes Gallagher. Oh, what a tackle!
How close is that?
Probably got a distance if you want to have a shot.
Not one of Finn's prettier ones.
How was that, Shane?
Finn!
Oh, your ball, your ball!
Clean it! Well done, boy.
Oh, my goodness me. Red for Beno Urbano.
Matty, hands off.
Let's go. We're going to get someone, aren't we?
Freeman's in, poetry.
Yes!
Slideholm, good vision and into the in-goal area. What a finish! Ollie Slideholm, no one sharper in the league this season. Try for Bath.
They're under pressure, they don't want it. If we just keep getting up, keep hitting them, we're going to keep making mistakes.
Right, let's go! Let's go! Let's go, boy.
I keep forgetting I'm mic'd up.
Off this, when we kick it,
we've just got to get whipped and a little bit higher. I think we've got more in our kick chase. You know what I mean?
Advantage.
Set it!
Crossfield from Spencer. Up goes Muir. Forwards goes the ball. But the try has been awarded. Brilliant from Russell. All the momentum in the world now behind them. Let's go! Bath in front.
Go again, lads. Jono, go boy! He's down!
Hendy accelerates hard. Very quick, very powerful. Still going strong, needs the offload. Gets it away. Mitchell! Is that the one? Northampton have it finally, and they have the trophy too. What a moment this is. Dreams come true for three men in particular who've given blood, sweat and tears.
Congratulations, mate. Genuinely happy for you. Well done, mate.
David, all we got.
I think handsome.
You okay, mate?
Yeah, I'm alright. Being not bad.
Mate, you had a great season. We've done a really good season.
Keep our heads, stick together, and some fight. We'll have to do it next year now.
Yes, you beauty!
My man.
Yes, Dingus! Who would have thought?
Northampton Saints, the 2024 Gallagher Premiership champions.
Said to me at the start of the year, very start of the year, he went. I've been told by so many people, if you get defending, you got a championship win inside that. That's what done.
What a finish. What drama. Great atmosphere at Twickenham. Lawrence, let's talk about the red card first of all. Any arguments on your behalf?
I don't think so. It's unfortunate for Ben Urbano, who had a fantastic season. It would probably cost him a place on the England tour. But you can't change the rules for a final, or the laws for a final. It would have been a red card in the regular season. It was a red card in the final. And it gave us even more drama, I think. The final had everything. It was the fastest-selling Premiership final of all time. I think it was incredibly well supported by both teams. We had the two best teams in the competition, Northampton first, Bath second. We had tries, 5 tries in all. We had a red card, which gave us a bit of drama. And more importantly, the game was not decided until the last play of the match. And how often have we said that in a final? You know, it went right down to the wire, didn't it? That last line
out. Actually, because we were looking at the ref at the end there, thinking, was it going to be another
so,
shot?
I mean, Hugo, there's not much more we could have got from that final, really.
Orange card. We need orange cards in our game, I think. Well, we're seeing it trialled this summer. I look at a World Cup final, I look at the Premiership final, both dictated a little bit by red cards. And I think when the red cards were initially brought out for foul play, we're talking stamping, gouging, kicking, that kind of thing. We don't see foul play like that. We're seeing players making mistakes. The difference between Sam Cane and Sia Khaleesi in the World Cup final, 6 inches. Ben Urbano got it slightly wrong. Orange cards, I think, is it.
Orange cards, 20 minutes.
20 minutes, then you can make a sub. And then subsequently, off the field, they'll probably get a heavier sanction. 4 weeks might turn into a 6 weeks ban. But in saying that, the effort that Bath put in, down to 14 men, for 58 minutes, I thought was truly commendable.
Yeah, Bath may be just a little step behind Northampton Saints on their journey, would you say, Lawrence? They'll come again.
Yeah, although, I mean, listen, I thought they were underdogs, slight underdogs going into the game. That was reflected in their league position in the season. But as we know, in Premiership finals, the underdog can win. So, as Hugo says, credit to the way Bath played. The red card galvanised them. There was a moment where I think Northampton had scored their second try, didn't they, immediately after that card. And they probably thought that the game was done and dusted. And the way that Bath gathered themselves and got themselves right back in the game, But I think, on balance, the right result. You know, Hendy coming on. I mean, how can you be player of the match and only come on for the last few minutes and come up with one play? But boy, was it a good play, and Alex Mitchell going over for that crucial score. But even then, we had to wait until the last line-out.
Yeah, literally the best team won.
Yeah, 100%. And I said it on the day, but what I love is attacking rugby is bringing trophies. If that becomes the blueprint for everyone else, then I'm here for it. Yeah. Tries and brilliant skills rather than kicking balls and combative rugby. It's been a wonderful season, and congratulations to Northampton.
And a team that know how to celebrate. I mean,
yes.
a bus top parade, you know, worthy champions and worthy celebrations too.
Oh, on the subject of that, I think we should go and celebrate what's been an absolutely brilliant season. So shall we?
Let's.
While we do that, we'll leave you with some images from what has been an amazing year in the Gallagher Premiership. Thank you so much for your company over the course of the last few months. I tell you what, in September, let's do it all again. From all of us here at TNT Rugby, take care of yourselves and bye-bye.
Here we go then, 8 months of glorious Gallagher Premiership Rugby ahead of us.
Hodge for the hat-trick! Oh! What have we just seen? Henry Slade again! And Finn Russell asking the shed to quieten down. Solo brilliance! Northampton in full cry early on! Noise from the north. Bouncing through one! Firing through! Oh, that's cheeky. And Don Brandt read it beautifully. That combination, so special. Oh, that's wonderful. And Smith, and he popped it up to Freeman. Freeman scores the try that could have huge implications as we run in towards the playoffs. They are a different beast with the playoffs in sight.
It's all coming down to the last weekend.
Ollie Hassel-Collins will bring Welford Road to its feet. Exeter Chiefs, it won't be. And surely they will have it. Cunningham South. How big might that be? All around the Gardens, a crackle of anticipation. The place at Twickenham on the line. Furbank gets it away to Orlando. Saints with the first try. Farrell bringing a rabbit from the hat. The maul has been called! The final act of courtly laws at the Gardens! Here we are with the second of the Gallagher Premiership semi-finals. Spencer over the top, Hill! The first big roar of the wreck. Look at O'Flaherty, O'Flaherty favourite, gets it! Sale desperate, Twickenham calling. The Gallagher Premiership final will be played between Northampton and Bath. Welcome to the beating heart of English rugby. Twickenham stuffed to capacity. There will be not one seat spare. Red for Beno Urbano. Freeman's in. Crossfield from Spencer. Up goes Muir. The try has been awarded. Mitchell! Is that the one? Northampton have it finally! And they have the trophy too!